In human imagination, there's a mysterious being we all seem to know. A creature with the upper body of a person and the tail of a fish, living deep in the ocean. A symbol that links our world with the endless, unknowable sea. In the West, she's called the Mermaid. Her voice is beautiful. Her songs lure sailors into the waves. Those stories are everywhere. But in the East, there's another name, another story, a deeper, older legend. She is called the Jiao Ren. Hi everyone, welcome back to Shirley's channel. Today, we're going to tell her story. If we want to trace the origin of the Jiao Ren, we have to go back to one of the oldest Chinese mythic texts, the classic of mountains and seas. A cold, simple line. Human face. Fish body. A voice like a water bird. In this ancient book, there's a brief note that sounds plain, but it carries a lot of meaning. Later scholars explained it like this. People from a seaside tribe tattooed their faces and bodies to look like fish scales. In other words, the earliest Jiao Ren may not have been sea monsters at all, but real coastal people who lived by the ocean and used tattoos as a kind of totem or disguise. Another chapter mentions a strange human fish creature. That makes it sound like a crying baby. Not exactly a mermaid, but it shows how ancient people imagined the ocean. Mysterious, frightening, full of things that might be useful or dangerous. To them, the creatures of the sea were simply things, resources, animals with possible powers. That was the Jiao Ren's first stage. Wild, primitive, not romantic at all. Centuries passed, and during the Wei and Jin dynasties, something changed. Fantasy stories became popular. Poets and scholars started reshaping old myths with emotion, imagination, and beauty. And the Jiao Ren changed too. In the book Soxin Ji, the author wrote a sentence that completely transformed her image. Beyond the South Sea lives the Jiao Ren. She lives in water like a fish, yet she never stops weaving. When she cries, her tears become pearls. With this one line, the Jiao Ren stepped from the world of beasts into the world of spirits. She can weave, not ordinary cloth, but Jiao silk, fabric so light it does not get wet even underwater. And when she cries, she sheds pearls. A symbol full of Eastern philosophy. Sadness becoming beauty. Pain turning into something precious. For the first time, the Jiao Ren had a soul. Let me tell you a story. A story that could have happened in that distant, poetic world. Deep in the South Sea, there lived a tribe of Jiao Ren. Among them was a young girl named Xian. She was the most skilled weaver in her clan. Her silk was as light as mist, and as thin as the wings of a cicada. One day, she swam near the surface, and found a young merchant, barely alive after a shipwreck. She carried him to a hidden sea cave, and cared for him every day, feeding him with fish, giving him fresh dew, and warming him with the silk she wove. As he recovered, he fell in love with Xian's kindness. And Xian fell in love with the stories he told. Stories of the human world. Markets, lanterns, bustling nights. But when he healed completely, he had to return to the land. Holding her hand, he promised, "Wait for me. I'll build a great ship and come back for you. I'll take you to see the lights of my world." Xian believed him. She returned to the deep sea and began weaving endlessly. She wanted to make the most beautiful wedding dress ever woven in the ocean. Whenever she felt lonely, or afraid, or simply missed him too much, her tears fell, and every tear became a pearl. She collected all those pearls and thought, with these, he can live well on land. He won't have to suffer. Time passed. Seasons changed. Silk piled up like small mountains. Pearls filled an enormous shell. But the ship never came back. The young merchant, once he returned home, took over his family business. married a suitable wife, and treated that seaside story as nothing more than a dream. Xian didn't know. She just waited, and cried, and waited more. One day, her tears ran dry. The last drops that fell were tinged with blood, and slowly, her body turned into coral, surrounded by silk and pearls. She sat forever at the bottom of the sea, waiting for someone who would never return. A quiet, heartbreaking tragedy, the kind that only Eastern stories seem to understand. From the primitive myths of the classic of mountains and seas, to the poetic imagination of later storytellers, the Jiao Ren changed again and again. She began as a mysterious tribe by the sea, then became a spirit who weaved silk, and finally, a symbol of beauty born from sorrow. Her story reminds us that some of the most beautiful things in the world come from the deepest sadness. And sometimes, the cruelest wound is not a blade, but being forgotten. Every pearl a Jiao Ren sheds is a memory, a promise, a tear that can never return home. That's all for today's episode of Sherry's Strange Tales. If you enjoyed this kind of story, don't forget to like and subscribe. See you next time.